Hello. I could eat about 1.5 million of these.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Welcome to the It's a Drama podcast.
Daddy, I love him.
My mother thanks you.
If you can't say something nice.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Hello and welcome back to the It's a Drama podcast. My name is Sunny.
And I am Liz.
And today, me and Liz, or I should say aka Mum, and I'm the son, are interviewing our wonderful dad and husband,
Yeah.
Brian.
Is it an interview or is it just like a chat, like a regular chat? Because we want to be able to talk too, don't we, Sonny?
Okay, well it's a high intensity questioned chat. We're going to ask you questions whilst chatting to you about the world pandemic that's currently occurring, and the fact that millions, if not billions, of people are being made to stay at home for our own safety.
Is the whole world in lockdown now?
I think the whole world, but a few countries, right?
It's getting that way.
Yeah, I know India is, and America is, and Britain is, and New Zealand is.
India has gone into total lockdown, so that's 1.2 or 1.3 billion people. And you imagine how close quarters they're living as well.
So listen, we're not here to give facts and figures and all the rest of it, because you know that as well as I do. It's in our face 24 hours a day. If we want to get that information, it's very easy to get. What we're here to give you is our perspective of what it's like for a family to suddenly find themselves living on top of each other, and knowing that that's what it's like for the rest of the month. I mean, we're on lockdown.
Or the indefinite future.
Yeah, they're saying 4 weeks, but you don't know how long it's going to go on for. And we just thought it might be a nice idea, because I know me for one, I'm sitting here and you can see it on social media, but I just want to know how other families are coping with this, you know, how they're feeling, and just what...
And they probably want to know how other families are coping as well.
Yeah, and, I don't want to be like a doom and gloomer and go, oh, we don't want to hear all that funny stuff on Facebook, because it's great that they're putting out all that funny stuff, isn't it, Sonny?
Mm-hmm.
Eh?
Yeah, it is. It's great. I've indulged. I've seen lots of funny posts about it. Just people trying to make a good thing out of a bad situation, and just it's almost like it used to be. Oh, we'll look back on it and smile at it with fond memories, but it's almost like we're looking at it now and smiling at it.
So what we wanted to do, actually. This is going to be really rough and off the top of our head, because as usual we haven't planned. We just thought, let's just sit down and chat.
Can't really plan for something like this.
No, you can't. But what I am really keen to know about is, and I'm sure other people are too, is there's so much I want to talk about, and we're not going to be able to get it covered in this episode, just one episode. But what really struck me this morning, Brian, my husband, who's here now.
Hello. Yes, hello. I'm Brian. So is my wife.
What really struck me, Brian, when you came... This is the first day you've been home from work today. And I don't think I've ever said to you, how do you feel? And we were standing out this morning having our breakfast, and we were like... I just sort of thought, how do you feel? You know,
so while we were on the deck, we were out there. It's a lot quieter. We live very rural anyway, but... There's always a hum of traffic.
We live in New Zealand, by the way.
Always a hum of traffic there in the distance and stuff, and that's all gone very quiet. It felt like Christmas Day, that type of feeling where everyone's just stopped and gone home. And that side of it, so that the reality hits. Like we hit total lockdown at 12 o'clock last night on the 25th of March 2020, and I suppose the reality hits when you wake up in the morning that that's it. We're here. You know, yes, you can go out your house to a degree, as you can walk the dog, all those sort of things. And what I was actually saying to you when we were out having breakfast was, when you actually think about it, there's an underlying feeling in yourself that you think, what's the knock-on effect of this? How is it going to be? You know, with staying at home, I've been working over 40 hours a week. We're just trying to get the project finished and over the line, and literally only had 3 or 4 weeks left of that project to go.
So you're working for a school, aren't you? Building a school?
Yes, we're building a green school here in New Zealand. And so that we just had to get it finished.
What have you been doing, like the plumbing and?
Well, yeah, it was I was the mechanical services project manager, but hands-on as well. So we were getting the finishing the heating systems and the plumbing systems, and just bringing everything. So it was when the builder left, we were to leave as well. And then all of a sudden, within a matter of 10 days, it all changed. Literally, we knew things were happening, but we didn't think that this lockdown situation would happen here in New Zealand, because a very low number of people have had this virus, and you tend to think, well, we're very rural.
Yeah, it's not going to affect New Zealand. Yeah,
this green school's been built on an old dairy farm, so you're in the middle of nowhere, really. But hey, yeah, so it's happened, and it happened very, very quickly. We heard about going to level 1 and level 2, but thinking it would be a couple of weeks or 3 weeks away before we hit level 3, and it was only literally 4 or 5 days later we hit this level 3, and level 4 within 48 hours of that. So yes, and it's for 4 weeks.
So can I just ask you then, because this is what I was interested to know, because I work from home anyway, so being at home for 4 weeks rather, apart from not being able to go to the cafes and see my mum and all the rest of it, but it's not a massive shock to me. But how do you feel to know that for the next month you are stuck in here with us?
And the big thing is with no sport.
Oh God!
That
would be
I just realised there's no sport. Yeah.
No.
So you tend to think, like, normally at Christmas, like I was saying before, you've got this bumper package of football and all these other things that are going on around that Christmas period and things like that. And so there's nothing like that. So you tend to think it's not a normal day at home, like at the weekends and stuff. Yeah. And, yes, you can go and cut the grass, but yep. And we have got work to do around the house, but you tend to just think, well, we'll just do that as and when. So that side of it where you're staying at home, where you have to stay at home, then yes, it's like I say, it's that, my goodness, this is actually happening. You see it in films and things like that, where they lock you down. And I know it's not martial law, like some countries have got martial law. Where,
what does that mean?
Well, it's run by the military, where you have a curfew as such, and you can't go out and things like that. So there's those type things that are happening, in parts of Europe.
Yeah, because I was talking to my friend from France. I told you this yesterday, didn't I, Sonny? My friend Rachel, and she said that if they're going, she lives in a little village in the middle of on the coast of France, and she said if they're out walking, they've got to have their passports, and they've got to have a handwritten declaration saying why they're going and where they're going and what they're going for. Yeah, so
it's pretty scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I often I said it was kind of a bit like, almost feels a bit like it's nothing to do with it, but it feels like East Berlin, like where you'd had your curfew, and it was like everyone, you just always had a feeling like everyone was watching you where you were going, because you could almost just feel it, like on the last 2 days before we everything, like before today, obviously, when everything's closed. There was just a feeling of like I was walking around in Bunnings, which is like a hardware store in New Zealand, and I was like everyone just looks scared, and I was like the air feels heavy. And it feels sick, like it just feels ill.
Yeah,
like
you're right.
The air around everyone just feels just heavy and ill. Have you seen Lord of the Rings, or The Hobbit, I should say?
No,
they say they go into. They said they go into Mirkwood, which is the forest, and they say like everything is sick. The very air in the forest is sick and ill, and that's what it felt like. You were walking around this supermarket, and it just felt like everything was. And you could hear someone coughing, and naturally you just think. Normally you'd be like, oh, that's fine, but you're just like, oh my god, like, someone's coughing, someone's sneezing, and that's what it just felt like. It felt like the calm before the storm, but the storm is calm, kind of thing. The storm is just nothing. It's like there was
I like that.
Like a build up, and then there was nothing. And and I was cleaning the supermarket in Mad Mex, which is where I work as a Mexican restaurant, and
cleaning up all the stuff,
just cleaning up everything, and it was almost like when you're watching like a horror movie about zombies, and the zombie apocalypse is going to happen, and no one in the film does, but in this film you knew it was going to happen. And I just kept seeing police cars drive constantly in like doing a circle around the thing, and that was almost like, wow, it's actually going to start happening. They're out in full force, and that's kind of what reminded me of East Berlin. It's like everyone's watching you and stuff like that. But yeah, no.
Yeah, it feels like that. The musical version of War of the Worlds, where he turns around and says the daily goings on. He comes back to his house after that first sort of interaction with the Martians, and then the train, everything, the hammering, this, that, and it just everything was going on in the background, and it's kind of like that.
It's like it's going on, but it's not going on.
Yeah,
and it's
like everyone's pretending it's still going on.
And there's lots of people who are still working. Everyone in the food chain and everything like that. The farmers, all the critical service people are all out there. So
I'm just so grateful to the people that work in those bloody supermarkets. I really am, because they've got kids at home, and they would want to be at home with them, wouldn't they? They wouldn't want to be going to the supermarket.
Yeah,
no. And you're so grateful to people like that. Who would have ever thought that you'd think, because you always think about like the ambulance, but the firemen and everything like that. Who would have ever thought that you'd think that your local supermarket? I am so grateful that you're there for us,
and even the postie.
Yeah,
the postie's out working, delivering all the stuff. I mean, delivering a lot of food as well, because there's a lot of food companies now that use couriers to deliver packages of food.
And even the couriers, like you said yesterday, I was in the other room, like in the family room, and I heard a knock on the door. And I saw her, and because we've got like a glass panel next to our door you can see through. And I saw her, and I went to open the door, and she went, "No, don't open the door." And pointed the parcel, put the parcel down, walked away, and then I can go out and get it. Yeah. So even that was just weird.
Yeah. Can I say about what the posties just delivered to you, Bri? Just to
What did she deliver to you?
You won't believe what she's just delivered.
What?
We're just walking up the road this morning, walking the dog. So we live on we live in the middle of the country in New Zealand, and we've got like a road that we outside our house. So we were just walking our dog, and there comes the postie driving down the road in a big red van. A big postman Pat van, and the big light flashing on top, wasn't it? And she wanted to say to Brian, what was she delivering to you?
She was delivering tiger worms for the Green School biolytic tanks.
What is that? What is that? A compost toilet?
It's basically all the poo from the Green School goes into these pods.
Yeah.
And then the poo floats to the top, and there's this mesh that the poo sits in, and these tiger worms eat it all up.
Right.
And so the water that comes out of these, or the effluent that comes out of these biolytic tanks, is better than 80% of the drinking water around the world, apparently.
Wait, you can drink it?
Yeah.
If you want to. I wouldn't.
So here we are in our pandemic, walking up the road, talking about all these doom and gloom and scared. And there comes Posty, wouldn't even wind her window down to shout to you. We were miles away, honestly, we were miles away. And she wouldn't, and Brian's going, "I can't hear you, what?" And she's like...
All I could hear was the engine of the outside.
And she's like mouthing, "I've got these worms for you." Yeah. And like... it was just weird. So she hands over. Oh no, she goes and leaves them outside our house. She drove up the
driveway and left them on the driveway.
Why has the postwoman got worms?
I don't know, because before the lockdown situation, they were express couriered on Tuesday, but because we're rural, it's taken 48 hours to get here.
How are they living, those worms, if they haven't got poo to eat?
They've got a little bit of poo in there. That's why the package stunk so much. Oh, it's horrible.
And so we came back from the walk. She wouldn't wind the window down, and that's fair enough if she doesn't want to speak to us across the road. And then she said, "I'm leaving your worms on your doorstep." So we get back to the house, and this package that stinks.
Yeah, with the worms crawling out of it.
Oh! And then you had to take it down to... Anyway, that's by the by. I'm just saying, it's just, It
was a crazy moment in everything.
It was crazy,
distraction, kind of,
I guess. It was crazy.
Yeah, crazy. Mental. Awesome. But
right,
anyway,
going back to look, this is what I want to talk. See, it's hard not to just you've got to keep your spirits up, haven't you?
You've got to be positive, and so I was listening to a great podcast the other day, and about the positivity in this with what's going on in the world, and the news companies are all sensationalism, and everyone is just in total panic and fear, and that's the big thing, is that fear factor. And that's what we were talking about this morning. Those little seeds that they plant in your brain, with the fear of how and what's going to happen. In your quiet times, you start to think, Well, what will happen? What will be the knock-on effect of this whole thing? Are we all doom and gloomed? Which that's what they want you to make you feel, as if like it's all going to go wrong and we're going to hit a recession this time next year and all these sort of things.
But we probably will, won't
yeah,
we?
well, you do, but you have to look at the positive side of this. The world is uniting for the first time in history to do something about this. Scientists are actually talking together. That argued together are now talking together. And that's just that side of it is just unbelievable. It's like a war, but it's not a war against people. It's a war against something.
Yeah, exactly. We're united.
Well, we unite,
yeah.
and that side of it makes you feel warm to be human. And that's the positivity that should come out of these things. Instead of this fear, oh my God, these people are dying and this. Yes, people are going to die with this, what's going on. And that's the sad side of it. But if we unite and something positive comes out of it, then at least that side of it is something to look forward to and look to move forward, because the world will change on this. But will it change for the better? It might well do. We just are doing all these things differently now. Just with hygiene alone,
I know,
and that, and people. Because how many times did you go somewhere and people just cough and sneeze as if like there's no tomorrow, as if they're sneezing and it's going to affect 50, 60 people with one sneeze. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Even if what comes out of
Shotgun.
this is more.
Yeah.
Pardon?
A shotgun sneeze, just spread it
Yeah,
everywhere.
but when I grew up, everybody had a handkerchief for that
that's a
reason.
bit gross, though,
yeah,
isn't
but they
it?
did though. At least they had it, and they would
My
sneeze
dad used to
into
have a
it.
hanky.
Yeah, but they would.
Handkerchief.
Yeah, but
Pardon?
Handkerchief.
No, handkerchief.
Handkerchief.
at least they would sneeze or cough into it. But now everyone just like lets it full blown go, and they hold their head back and like yahoo, and it's out. So hopefully that side of
Yeah,
things
but what
will
about if you're
change.
with someone who's like got a handkerchief and they sneeze into the handkerchief, and then you're standing talking and you get into like a really in-depth conversation, you start crying and they go, "Oh, here you are, have my handkerchief to wipe your tears." That's a bit gross, isn't it?
Or your grandma used
A
to
handkerchief to wipe your tears.
you used to dab it and wipe something off your face.
Well, that's never happening now, is it? Not with us pandemic.
No. So anyway, look, we were supposed to be being a bit more serious than this, Brian. I just want to know. What do I want to know? I just want to know, are you scared?
Well, of course you
And
are.
if you are,
Why?
Yeah.
why and how are you going to combat that?
Okay, so the first things that you start to think of, obviously, the biggest thing that's on your mind is food. Obviously, not toilet paper, because I can't really understand the toilet paper situation. Because most people have sanitary nowadays, so where they can jump in a shower or whatever they need to do. But anyway, the fear is food for your family and things like that. And it's not so much these first few weeks. It's like the knock-on effect of in 6 weeks. And that's what the fear side of you starts to think, if people do get ill and they can't keep working in those jobs, then obviously someone else has got to take over. But the management side of it that runs that, if they get ill and that happens. So that's the breakdown that you tend to think what and how could happen. So I can understand these lockdown things and what they're trying to do, but it's that fear that's in all of us that you think.
So is that your main fear, is not being able to feed your family?
Yes, that's what it is. It's not the money and stuff like that. And you start to think of things differently. We have 4 sheep and stuff like that. So you start to think like that, but we're in a very privileged position.
What, are you going to give them the chop?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't think about that. If the family always comes first. So that side of it, but that's if it was getting really serious, But
How do you feel to be at home all day with us?
being at home is fine, because when we came back from traveling around the
now.
world.
Yeah.
Still
It's only
podcast
day
in a
one.
week.
Yeah, no, that's what we said we'd do. We need to do another podcast.
I hate you.
Next week will be right. So Sonny's been eaten.
Yes, we've taken Sonny's
Along with the
leg.
sheep.
That's in the freezer. Yeah, so being at home. When we came back from traveling, I worked every day at home
Yeah.
for probably 2 months, building websites and trying to get online companies up and running, and things like that, like businesses. So I've never had a problem being at home, but some people, especially you've got, say, a couple that goes to work. They both work 40 hours a week, and you've got 2 children at school, and then all of a sudden you're all at home. That side of it is going to be hard for them. It's not just for 2 days. This is for, a minimum of 30 days. But yeah, there's so many things I always think about doing, but not a lot of people. It's, we live in a house rurally. I can't imagine how it would be if I lived in an apartment, and that's in New York or wherever, in whatever city it was. That side of it, I just think, wow, what do you do?
I was I think, because you said to me, "Oh, Liz, you're burying your head in the sand." You did accuse me of that.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, but it was. I wasn't burying my head in the sand. My way of dealing with things is just to keep positive, and try and see the positive in a situation always.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I was burying my head in the sand a little bit about the food, because I just never, I suppose I didn't want to admit that it was going to come to that situation where we wouldn't be allowed out. And so I wasn't going out like everyone else and buying stacks and stacks of food. And me and you sort of clashed against that, didn't we, Brian, the other day when we had our little fisticuffs?
Yeah, we did.
And, because you were like, you need to buy loads of food. And I said, oh yeah, we'll do it tomorrow, which I know, looking back now, yeah, that wasn't the right attitude to have. But that was just, I suppose that was me just maybe not, admitting that it was going to happen. But what I was going to say is, there are times, so I'm trying to be really positive, and I think I am a really positive person, but like the other night, I just woke up, it's 3:00 in the morning, and my heart was just beating like mad, and I just burst out crying. And I was just like, I just started crying my eyes out, and I thought, oh, Brian's going to die, you're going to get it. Yeah, but I did, Sunny, I did. And it was just this overwhelming fear of, I'm going to be on my own, and I'm not going to, and
Yeah.
and then I woke up in the morning, and I was fine, because we just get on with our things. So I suppose the thing that I wanted to know is, do you ever have that sort of feeling, or is that like a...
Yeah, you do. You have those morbid feelings that come through, and you just think, well, put it this way: yes, we're all going to get this virus. We will all get it, and whether it's a mild symptoms with you or it's severe symptoms, because it will be there. It's not going to disappear, and it will be here for the rest of our lives. But we will become immune to it.
If we survive it.
If you survive it, yes, yes. Unless it mutates or this, that, and the other, like a common cold does, because it is part of that type of strain of virus. But yeah, and you do think the worst. Even when we were out walking last night on the beach, we were walking, you and Tessa and Maggie the dog and me, and you just think, oh my goodness, because it like Sunny said, that air of sickness. It was a funny, very atmospheric night on the beach. It was raining to the far distance, wasn't it? But we were in sort of sunshine and stuff, but it was a very weird light. And again, only probably 4 or 5 people on the whole beach. And you do have those times when it just hits you, and you've just got to be mindful at those times and just almost tap yourself on the head and just go, come on, stop thinking like that, because it doesn't do you any good.
Yeah.
What is the point in thinking like that?
I know. It is.
Because you can go down that path and you're just like, oh my God, they're all going to die. And, and you just think, we haven't even got to that point yet.
No.
So what's the point in thinking like that?
So how do you stay positive if you were,
Well, literally just live for the moment where you are. And I'm not trying to be all Eastern mindfulness about this. It's just sometimes you just need to put your head up and just think and just breathe and just think, you're here now. Let's just cope with the situation. We haven't got to that. They haven't got to the thing where there's nothing on the supermarket shelves, and we haven't got to this. And I don't think it will come to this because we're doing this. It's not like in an earthquake where all emergency services are gone. Everything's all flattened. The buildings are gone. You've got nowhere to live. Everything is just is completely normal at the moment, And I know if you're living, things can happen. Your roof can blow off, this, that, and the other, and who's going to come and fix it? All those type of things, yes. But
you'll fix it, Brian. You'd be able to fix it.
I would, but with what? That's what you're trying to say.
What do you mean? Like what materials?
Yeah, where would you get the roof from?
Yeah.
So at the moment, you just got to keep positive.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
agree.
the thing, is not go down that self-pity and thinking, oh my God, if they're all going to die and this and the other, I'll be left here on my own, or I'm not looking forward to getting this virus, I'm going to have a chesty chest. Don't think about it until it happens, and when it does happen, cope with it from day to day. And because the most important thing, like you were saying about your sleep and things like that, is that get your 8 hours sleep, keep yourself, if you can, go and walk. You've got all the time in the world now.
Yeah.
If you are, go out and walk in the fresh air. Just keep your distance from people and keep positive.
Yeah.
And that's, instead of this doom and gloom, turn the television off.
I know, yeah.
Choose what you want to, if there's something that, you don't need the broadcast of the news. You just go and find out what's on. Don't go on the social media side of things, because that is doom and gloom and who's having a bad time. Choose your news to go to and where to find out what it is. Mainly the government websites aren't, they give you the right information and it's not doom and gloom. You know, it's about staying strong and keeping positive. That's what it all is with us. That's just me. That's the way I can cope with things and keep, bright-eyed. Otherwise, it's just doom and gloom, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And it's sensationalism. Those companies are selling you news in between their adverts.
Well, just to give you an example, like the other day, I was driving into town was when we were still on level 3, and I was going to get some shopping, and me and Tess in the car just driving along, and we're just chatting normally. I mean, obviously we're aware of everything that's going on, but we don't sit there going over and over and over it again. I mean, she's 15 years old. She wants to talk to me about the vines that she's going to wrap around her lights in her bedroom, so that's much more important. But we're sitting there, and everything just felt fine. It was great, and then I got a phone call and from someone in my family, and they're like, "Oh, have you heard the news about this 12-year-old in England? They were on this ventilator, and there was nothing." And honestly, I just burst out crying, and it was like, "Well, hang on, there's nothing I can do about that. Absolutely nothing I can do about it. It's really, really sad, but it's not helping our situation, coping, how you get through the day with your own family and your own positivity." And like you said, and my mum pointed out something really important as well, is if you're stressed and, freaking out, your immune system becomes weaker, and you are going to be more liable to get things. So I think it's really important. I mean, God, I don't want to sound as if I know what I'm talking about to do with the immune system, but it's common sense, isn't it?
No, but it is, Liz, what you're saying, it's like we just said, turn the news off and watch some feel-good movies.
Yeah, exactly.
They will make you feel so much better and your immune system laugh. Watch some comedy, you know?
Yeah.
I know it's hard at these times, and it's all well and good when you're all sitting there fit and well. We're here in New Zealand. We're a bit sort of isolated. But, you can make it the same. You really, really can.
I think you can make... I think you can give a more positive environment for your own family to be in as well, can't you? Rather than, I don't know what it would be like if I lived in a family where everyone was just constantly, "Oh my God, this has happened, oh, and have you heard this? Oh, and have you heard that?" Because that's not, it really isn't healthy, and it doesn't help anyone, does it?
Well, gossip, you like gossip. When everyone likes to hear a bit of gossip, but 9 times out of 10, how does it make you feel afterwards? You always feel a bit, poor buggers, or this, that, and the other, and it just and that's what the news does to me. It did it a long time ago. We used to buy the Daily Paper 20 years ago, didn't we? Or 18 years ago. And then it got to the point where you just think, I can't read this anymore because it's depressing. And
what about you, Sonny? What where are you? How are you staying? Are you positive?
Yeah, I'm positive. I was a bit scared last night because I was laying in bed and I couldn't breathe quite well. It was like fine. It was just felt like I'd either like just laid down after my dinner or something, but my chest was really tight. But then it went away, and I don't have it now. So it's not like
I think it was that chilly.
But like straight away your mind is like, oh my God, I've got coronavirus, I'm gonna die, and but it's actually not dying that scares me. It's just actually just passing it on to people and just like the spread and stuff. But like that's like one of my workmates said the other day. He was like, it's not the virus that's scaring people. It's actually just the speed that it's spreading, and nobody knows how it's spreading so quickly. Like it's kind of like in horror movies. It's like sometimes you'll see like a little girl ghost, and little girls aren't scary, but it's just the fact that why is she there? That's the scary thing, and like what's she going to do, and how did she get there, and when she runs at the camera, it's scary because she's running so quickly, and that's kind of what it is. It's almost just like it's not the actual virus that's scary. It's just well, it is obviously because it kills people, but it's more the fact that it's spreading so quickly and we can't stop it, and like that's the scary part about it. But yeah, like when he's talking about social media, everything you see on everything is just like latest virus outbreaks, and here's the latest stats on this, and new alert and stuff like that, and just like that, and 200 dead in Spain in one day, and just like stuff like that, and
And it's absolutely tragic. It's tragic. It really is.
And you never see the 89,000 people recovered stats, do you?
No, the other stats I heard the other day, about this infection rate where it doubles and then it doubles the next day and doubles again and then, and those doubling effects are quite horrific, but it stops. It doesn't keep going. And that's the scientific evidence that it just does not keep going. The doubling, it's not, when you double something and then you double it again, before long you've hit the million. And then you think, well, if you double that, it's 2 million. Then it's just, and then it's 4, and then it goes up like that. And it doesn't. With this type virus, that's where it slows down.
Well,
that's the positivity side of it that you've got to keep on to, But hey, it's not an easy subject to talk about.
It isn't. It isn't,
because you get quite emotional, and it's everybody is in a different situation, and but if you can take something out of this, which is a 30-minute podcast, so we've got to sign off in a second, and we will do a part 2, I think, to this, to see how we do feel in a week or so. But
we've been asked by a local radio station, haven't we, to this guy contacted us and said, look, we know you went around the world as a family, you spent 365 days a year in each other's pockets, sleeping in the same room most nights, which we did. Can we just get how are you coping with this? Just like some ideas and stuff. Not that we're like the model family or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but it's just, so we're going to be doing this chat with this guy on the radio, which I'm really excited about, because my biggest thing that I'm thinking at the moment, like you always try and think, how can I help people? What can I do to help? And you think, well, I can't do anything. But actually, just being at home with the kids, I homeschooled for 9 years, and being at home with the kids constantly, every day, all for 9 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't so bad, and it was just. I think the hardest part of having kids home all day is the mental side of getting over the fact that everything hasn't got to be perfect all the time. You've got your family at home. You're going to have screaming rows like me and you did the other day, Bri. We had that massive screaming row. That's fine. That is absolutely fine. Don't think that you've got to be this perfect family that everyone's getting on and everyone's just getting through this so well apart from me. And it's like, no, that's not true. And that was what I felt really passionately about, was like, people need to just be saying, do you know what? I'm having a tough time too, but we're doing this to get through it, Don't you agree, Sonny?
Yeah, I do.
It's just...
Yeah.
Because it's not always easy, is it?
No, it's not.
And it's so... I don't want to be one of these families that put it out there that like, oh, we're doing really well and we're coping really well.
Yeah.
And we are used to being together 24 hours a day.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
And we're struggling, and we're doing this to help those struggles. And, that's what I wanted to talk about, was just... We're all in it together. Yeah,
we are all in it together. And again, like you mentioned with the radio, and when we talked to Brian on the radio, which is another Brian, he did say it's like, it's kind of reversed, where people weren't listening to the radio very much. And you know what? If you want to get your news, sometimes the radio is better, because a visual thing of what's going on is sometimes worse than just listening to something. And hearing something which is, a little bit different, the way they broadcast. Yes, instead of seeing that banner running across the bottom, another 50,000 people dead here and there, don't see that, because you don't need to see that. It's not going to keep you positive.
Yeah.
But the radio can, and podcasts and radios can keep you positive.
Yeah. So I think that's what we should make this aim of these podcasts, is just to keep, keep the spirits up, and just like we're all in it together, and just let people know. And also, I'm going to put a link to the show notes to that fantastic podcast we listened to with James Altucher.
Yeah.
We love James Altucher, Brian and I. That's one of the main people we listen to, and he did this fantastic interview. He's done a few now.
He's done some great ones, just not on this, what's going on in the world,
But he did one called "The Good News About the Coronavirus," and I'm going to put a link to that, because just listen to it. You come out feeling, do you know what? we can do this.
Yeah.
You know, we can get through it, and it's going to be okay. And yes, there's going to be lots of deaths, but we can get through as a family, as a unit. We can get through it. So I'm going to put the links to that. So I'm sorry, Sonny, I didn't give you much chance to chat.
No, that's fine.
did
I think it was good. I liked listening and
Yeah.
put in my input in when it was needed. So,
And the next podcast we're going to do is, which we're going to record in a minute, aren't we? Because we're at home with nothing else, sod all else to do, is homeschooling and routine and things like that. And just again, we're just going to talk about the routine that we adopted when you two were at home all day, and how it worked for you, and how you felt it worked, and whether people need routine. And because I think routine is so important, I really do.
Well, it is. It gives you something to aim for through the day. It's not a regimental routine, but it's just a guideline for your day. Yep.
So, sorry, I've put that too close now. Do you want to take
fine.
us out then, Sonny?
Yeah, anyway, thanks so much for listening, guys. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a 5-star review on iTunes and whatever else you're listening on. And I won't say it this week because of everything that's going on.
No,
Yeah.
oh, Sonny.
But yeah, anyway, thanks so much for listening, guys.
And thanks for coming on, Bri. I mean, we're going to be doing loads more as a family.
Yeah, well, we've got to do some more of these just to keep everyone up to date where we are.
And just,
see what's what.
do you know what the other thing I'd really like to talk about as well is New Zealand. I really would like to talk about New Zealand, because I know a lot of people are interested in emigrating to New Zealand in the future. And yeah, it's just, and if anyone wants to come on and phone me and let me know how, and be a guest.
That'd be great. Just contact us through the website or contact, all the emails are on there.
Yeah.
Just drop a line, info@itsadrama or Liz@itsadrama.
Yeah.
And, if you'd like to come and talk, we'd love to talk to someone from the States, or we'd love to talk to someone from Europe, or anyone like that. And just let us know what's happening.
How you're dealing with things.
Drop us a line.
And in the meantime, Bri, there's 10 ton of paint in the garage there.
Thanks
so
for that. Liz went out yesterday, almost curfew style, and went and got a load of paint for me. Brilliant. Yeah.
Keep you positive.
Even though I slipped the disc last week,
Keep you positive.
which I did. Can't even see the osteopath now.
Okay, so we'll say thanks, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yes, thanks so much for listening, guys. Bye.
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 Thank you so much for joining us this week on the podcast. We have loved having you here.
If you guys could subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review.
Oh yeah, that would be nice.
That would be absolutely amazing. And make sure to share the podcast with your friends.
And if you'd like to hop over to the blog, find one of the little boxes that ask you to drop your email. I will send you a newsletter every week letting you know when we've released our new podcast. That will go straight into your inbox. So it's www.itsadrama.com.
All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you next week for another podcast.
Look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.